Is that a good? Okay. Call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Kildare Hills Board of Commissioners. Thank you all for being here. If you would, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. It's quiet. You can hear every drip outside. Pretty short, simple agenda. Oh,
Surprise.
there you go. Is that a nice clean piece of paper?
I knew everything looked funny. Hold on.
No, it doesn't look funny because we have glasses on. So we've got an agenda. Thoughts?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right.
I'll second it.
We have a motion in 2 seconds, which is pretty much the vote.
Yeah.
But any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? We have an agenda. Public comment. All my favorite public is here in the room. Would anybody like to speak at public comment? Seeing no one run for the podium, we will close public comment and skip down to any ongoing business we need to revisit.
No, sir.
All right. And no new business other
No,
than
sir.
what we're getting into. I thought I skipped over something there. So new business then.
No, sir.
So committee reports.
I would like to open the floor to Kelly.
Good evening. My name is Sue Kelly, 211 Sea Village Lane, on behalf of the Community Appearance Commission. Just two real quick things. First of all, we're having a meeting tomorrow morning and 8:30 here. And one of the things we'll be looking at is a meeting schedule that is quarterly, 4 times a year, and some other things. But the other exciting thing to tell you about is Trash Attack, a version that will be like they were a few years ago before COVID messed everything up. So Trash Attack is now scheduled for Saturday, April the 1st. And Sandy Markland, thank goodness, has taken the job of pulling it all together. She does an absolutely astounding job for the town. And she is having, as she has before, one meeting. That's all we have to do to get organized. And that is, if anybody's interested, Thursday, February the 2nd at 4 p.m. here. So if you'd like to help out with Trash Attack and have a little time to come to the meeting, it will be a little bit more effort this year because I'm assuming that we're going to do food and the stuff like we used to, since Sandy says this will be like Trash Attack used to be. Questions? Thank you very
Super.
much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Exciting to hear. Any other committee reports?
I just wanted, we, John, Ben, and I attended the tourism board's, I guess they called it a town hall, which was a little bit deceiving of a name thing, but it was basically an open forum for the long range planning for the tourism board and for tourism in Dare County, and it went really well. They did some roundtable discussions, and the group was there that's leading the long-term planning, and they did some questions and did some group discussions and got feedback, and I think it went really well. It was really well attended. There was probably 60,
60, 70?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Lots of
So-
good opinions and
Mhm.
nobody
Yeah.
too snarky.
Oh, and also
little
a
snarky,
really,
little
yeah,
snarky.
a little bit.
Gotta got some snark.
But-
Well, you gotta have some.
One thing I thought was really interesting is they had 4,538 responses to the survey, to the resident survey, which doesn't sound like a whole lot given our population, except that the director of the program that's leading the long-term plan told us that the city of LA recently did this and they received just over 1,000. So
Wow.
I thought that was, she was like, actually, you guys really did well with the
Wow.
response. So I think that's cool. And it speaks to people's interest in caring about where we live. So
And Lee pushed that pretty good too.
yeah, he did. Yeah, it was everywhere. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was good. Anyway,
I think, the
So
meeting
that's it.
too also recapped a lot of things that are really great about where we live. And, our little town has a lot to do with that. Some of the things they were saying. So
Right.
while they were trying to say, how can you make it better? You realize you start thinking, wow, we really did a lot of that,
Mhm.
making it better already,
Mhm.
which is great. Well, there's always more to do, of course, but
Right.
we do have a pretty good place to live, great
Good point.
educational system,
Mhm.
things like that.
Yeah, a lot of positives.
Yeah.
That's all.
Anything from the other end?
No, sir.
Way down there.
No, other than the Wall That Heals Committee, the last meeting is tonight. And so the planning has already been done. And, we'll have some information coming up from Wally Overman pretty soon. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. I wasn't able to make state of the county this morning, but I read the recap. It went really well.
Yeah.
Sounded like a well put together presentation, also reminding us a lot of good things too. All right, so that's Commissioner's agenda. I'm only on my agenda just that we have a good discussion tonight. Nothing special to bring up, and that gets us to the meat of it, the town manager's agenda.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you. Well, we're going to start the budget guidance this evening with your permission, with Beverly doing a little PowerPoint recap with some little bit more information than what we presented to you last week with the audit. This gives you some more up-to-date numbers and hopefully get some good guidance from you for the upcoming budget year. So Deb?
Okay. Some of this is looking at, some of these graphs are looking at the same thing, but a different way. We're just going to glance at them. Some of them we'll talk about a little bit more in depth than others, and some of them I'm just going to pass through. I had clicker training today, so I think I can do it. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me do it.
Got away from me already.
Got away from me.
Famous last
All
word.
right. There we go. Okay, this is our original budget over the last 6 years. As you see, we have remained somewhere under the $20 million mark for several years. 21, 22, we broached that 20 million. And then the year that we're in now, 22, 23, we're up to 27.7 million. But 3.7 of that is FEMA money that we will hopefully receive and pay back debt. And we account for that in the general fund, even though it's beach nourishment, that portion of money is in that. So when you bring that back into the picture, we're back down to 24 million, which is only about a 12% increase over the prior year. The water fund has remained a roughly 4.6 million average over the last several years, and the wastewater fund is in the $230,000 range. We're not going to do really anything on the water fund tonight. That's kind of guided by the water system master plan. So this is basically just generally the general fund. Okay, this is another way of looking at where our actual revenues come from, as opposed to where these type of expenditures are. So you can just kind of soak that in. Ad valorem and sales tax are kind of neck and neck. Personnel is we're a service business. So service personnel costs on top of that expenditure. Again, here we have another way of looking at it. And this is by government function, by function. We've got general government, public safety, the different functions of government. And this was based on the last year's audit, actual numbers. Okay, for this year, we have a penny generates our assessed value is $3 billion. So a penny generates $306,000 on our tax rate. MSD, 1 penny in the MSD zone generates $20,700. So we'll refer back to that penny from time to time, and you'll know approximately that's $306,000. Again, another view of where our revenues come from. Let me see here. So, in this picture, there's differences there in all other, which it went from 4% to 12%, and that included financing, 1.3 million. We had to implement a new accounting standard, GASB 87, which we had to convert all of our leases into debt, etc. So, and we also had another financing source of a land sale of 1.5 million. So that kind of skewed that piece of the pie a little. And then the restricted portion is we did spend about 2.9 million in FEMA money. So we're looking for that reimbursement. We earned the right to receive that money. So if y'all have any questions as we go along, just
Jump in.
feel free to stop me. Okay, here are assessed values. And you can see where we did the revaluation, but we're roughly at the $3 billion mark. And it just, it creeps up a little over time. Here's the tax levy, kind of corresponds pretty much with the assessed values. Okay, this slide I wanted to spend a little bit of time on. And I guess, and if most everyone does understand the revenue sharing formula, but in this scenario with us, the 22-23 year we're in, as you can see, we did the occupancy tax portion that is Kill Devil Hill's share is 1.54% lower than it was last year. And sales tax is 0.20% less. Well, when you take that little bit of less share and you multiply it by the amount of monies that we received last year, the pot that we shared from, that's equivalent to $334,000. That's what we essentially gave up. Does that?
Not sure I'm quite following
You're not
why
following?
that happened.
Okay, so what happens is other towns or the levies.
Oh, if they change their tax
Our rates
Mhm.
are based on other towns'
okay,
levies, and this is how we fall.
right.
Yeah.
Did someone else raise the tax rate?
Yes, Nags Head
Nags
raised
Head did.
theirs.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I remember
Nags
them
Head.
doing
Nags
that now.
Head did
Yeah, I
raise
forgot.
theirs, and I believe Southern Shores added the MSD.
And the MSD.
So
There it
that
is.
skewed us, and we lost part of our levy share.
Which is a little bit over 1 penny.
Right.
Just a
You
little
remember
over a
the
penny.
numbers
I mean,
should
and just to show you,
Just keep
that's
that in mind.
yeah, that's how
Yeah.
that's how it happens.
That's how it happens.
It's a formula, and no one's figured out a better formula.
No, and I think everybody's nervous about
To even
even
touch
trying to
Yeah.
talk about it in Raleigh, because that's where you have to.
You'd have to change it in Raleigh, right?
Yeah.
For that argument
So.
too. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, the occupancy loss was roughly 246,000, whereas sales tax loss was probably roughly 87 to 88,000. Will be based on this number for this fiscal year we're in.
Only good news is it's a percentage of a bigger pie overall.
Okay. Again, here's some revenue trends.
Yeah, pretty
Yep.
dramatic.
So yep. and the 2020 explosion. Okay, this slide, just want to give you a little guidance here on where we are with occupancy. This is the blue bar is the budget. Red's actually is obviously the actual that we received, well over budget, not knowing where we were headed in those 2 years, how things were going. So we increased our budget for 22-23 with somewhat optimism in occupancy tax. What we ended up doing is not going back to the 2019 and 2020 at times. We just kept it at no growth for the first 6 months of the fiscal year and a little bit of reduction for the January through July, 12%. So, and that's where we stand with the budget in this fiscal year for occupancy tax. That year to that last column, that blue year to date is the budget year to date. And this is based on what we budget in that monthly report you guys get.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
and then what actual. So it appears that we've done a decent job of budgeting to actual.
Mhm.
Those numbers represent, it's recorded what we've actually received through January. We just got the January deposit for July through November
Mhm.
occupancies. So that's kind of the most recent data we have. So far we've done a good job. Hopefully it comes in higher. I mean, if all's good and not lower, but that's where we are at this point. And is there any questions on that information?
The occupancy tax, just out of curiosity, it doesn't really matter, but I'm just curious. Does it come in based on when the stays happen, or does it come in based on when like people make deposits and things in the wintertime?
I believe it's month to month, whatever they
Every
collect,
month, whatever
and
they
they
collect.
remit for that month, and then it comes into, and they, if the occupancy in July,
Hmm.
they calculate that at the end of the month and remit it. And I believe August, we're always 2 months behind, and then we get it from Dare County in the second month.
That's what each of the businesses collected during that month. That makes sense.
And they then they put it on a report, send it in, and then Dare County sends it to the
And
municipalities.
Beverly, I can't remember who is it through the county that does that. Who oversees the occupancy tax? I can't remember her name, but she came to present at the Board of Tourism, like how it works and that. If she'd be willing to come, it's a great.
Mhm.
It would be a great addition to just it only took her 10 minutes to kind of explain how it
If I could
works
see
and
the
explain
report
where
right
they
now, I could
pull
tell
stuff
ya.
from. And it may not matter to this board or not, but
Mhm.
Like, no,
it
no,
is
it's
really
work.
interesting.
Yeah.
I know. Anyway, it's not coming to me, but anyway,
I'll figure
she's
that
great.
out. Okay.
If in the process that matters to us or not, but she really is.
I might be
very
able to
good at
look on the
explaining it.
website here in a second, be able to tell you. Okay. So we'll go through the same thing with sales tax, pretty much the same scenario. Did a pretty good job of budgeting up until 2020, and then just the economy just
Surprised
exploded.
everybody,
Yeah. And so we raised the sales tax. That's sometimes driven too. We estimate that the League of Municipalities puts out a really good statewide forecast for all the local governments. And I kind of sort of use that as a guideline. And their increase for the 22-23 year we're in was 3.75%. So that's what we did. We are somewhat higher than that right now. We're over. The actual collections have
Beating
been
the averages.
over. And again, you'll see that in your monthly report for January. We're about 300,000 over year to date. It could change between now and the end of the year, but right now it's pretty good standing. All right. I'm gonna hang on this one a minute. This was kind of this slide was one that we went through on the audit. Here, just wanted to get you thinking about the fund balance policy, where you want your fund balance to remain. Right at what we reported to you at the meeting, you'll see the next slide. This fund balance is calculated on the budget that we're in. The amount of fund balance we ended the year with as it is applied to this year's budget. It's at 58.23%, and a fund balance policy is 35. And again, that 35%, that 9 million is what is that 35%. That's what you're saying. We want that for emergencies. We want that for opportunities. We want that as our, just that. The 6.5 million is everything over top of that, but is 35% where you want to be on those, on that number. I'm going to go forward and show you, this is the actual unassigned fund balance as a percent of our 22 expenditures, which were less than the 27 million. So we ended up with 74.1. I don't know if you remember us talking about that during the audit presentation. That's where we are. That's where our neighbors were with the same information at June 30th, 2022. Nags Head actually, if I understand this correctly, they actually reduced theirs from 50 to 25 because they set up a capital, so what's it called? A capital investment plan. Is that what it is? Capital investment plan? Get capital investment fund with their excess fund balance and made their policy to equal 25%.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So their capital fund, they're planning to spend it is basically.
They plan to spend it, but they are
Earmarked it for CIP stuff.
they're earmarking monies and setting it aside. I'm guessing somewhat like our capital reserve funds, but they took their I guess it's called seed money. I don't know what you call it, but out of their fund balance to start it and
they're
reduce
investing
their
that
fund
money too.
balance percent policy from 50 to 25, and ours is at 35. Do we need to go higher? Do we need it? Is it fine where it is?
What's the county? Do you remember?
Theirs is lower, but
Is
they've
lower.
got a lot of,
Big.
they got a bigger pot.
Mhm. Mhm.
Excuse me. Yeah, they have one of those funds as well.
Okay.
So
Kitty Hawk was
something
very conservative on spending throughout 2022.
excuse me.
And Kitty Hawk was very conservative about their spending. They
They've
held a lot of
they
money
have
back.
traditionally been pretty conservative in spending and have all pretty much remain, their fund balances remain pretty high. They have a set amount.
Instead of a percentage.
Mhm. But anyway, something to think about.
Yeah, it's a good discussion point. You know, it's about that sort of unthinkable worst case scenario 500-year storm that wipes the business to the ground for a year. You know, can you make it through that? Because other places don't keep fund balances this big. We have higher risk of
Coastal
disruption.
towns, that's correct. Okay, another picture, another pie. A comparison from year to year. Let's see if there's anything that I can tell you about this differences. I believe we had picked out here that general government increased, primarily that blue piece of the pie increased in 22, primarily due to buildings and grounds projects. We did a lot of big projects, buildings and grounds in 22. I mean, Meekins Field still working on it. It's,
Tail end of the
yeah,
Yeah.
public works.
Aviation Park, the pavilion, and
pavilion.
etc. Yep. Let's see, what else did we have here? Okay, the environmental protection. Again, this is a timing thing. I mean, one garbage truck pretty much took us from 16% to 11% because it didn't come in.
Oh, it
Yeah,
didn't
we
come in
didn't
during
pay
the
for it.
year.
We encumbered it. So, yeah, just the timing of
Of a big
expenses.
bill.
But we pretty much stay in the zone there. All right, and this is info on the Consumer Price Index and the Social Security Administration. This is what we have historically tied our COLAs to, either one or the other. And this, at the 6.5%, it's roughly cost of general fund $730,000. Each additional one is 115. 730,000 is about 2.4 cents on the tax rate of the 32 cents. Okay, our debt pretty much, it pretty much remains constant. Increased in 22, 23. That red is the FEMA that we're going to pay back soon. And we paid down the the blue, reduced. The blue portion is from 21, 22 to 22, 23 is from beach nourishment, the first phase, the first project. Okay, and here we are at the American Rescue Plan funds. We have received all of the money. It's $2.337 million. We are using that money to supplant or to cover law enforcement salaries in the budget that we're in, which means it will free that money up and it will roll into fund balance.
Nice little windfall.
So that is something that needs to be considered when prioritizing big projects, things that need to be done, whether they're street projects that are, pressing, that are, costs are mounting or whatever. So. Here we are on beach nourishment. We're not quite finished our project. I think there's just a little bit more to go. We've spent 87% of the budget. We only have a little bit left to finish up. I think it's demobilization. Not quite sure what else is in there. Sand fencing or sprigging, etc. So we have budgeted. Anyway, the FEMA money there that we budgeted is a little over $3.6 million. We've requested close to $3 million to be reimbursed to us because we've spent it. We've received only a small portion of that to date, very small, but it's in the pipeline, right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's there. We can see it hovering.
Moving on down the
It's
line.
waiting. Yeah, it's in a holding pattern, but it's waiting. It should be pretty soon. And Dare County revenues as well. Dare County's paying a portion of our engineering cost, et cetera. And the North Carolina division, what is that? NCDEQ. Yep.
They paid their part.
They've done. Yep. They were front runner.
And
So
Dare
we've-
County will have that all paid up by the end of June.
Yeah.
Sooner, maybe.
Mhm. I anticipate that would be the case, and that we'll wrap this whole project up in a nice
Nice part.
done.
Yeah. Went smoothly, and we got lucky compared to our neighbors.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, we are pretty much done with that last little bit that needs to finish to close. All right, we do have a project coming up in this fiscal year that we're in. So the fire station, in conjunction with Dare MS station, our estimated costs are at $12 million, a little over $12 million. And at this time, this looks like our lease payment. We will be leasing our space back from Dare County. And these are the payments for the next 20 years. So that's definitely something that we need to keep in mind, budgeting. And our reserve fund balances, and this is at 12/31/22. At this point, we've pretty much tapped out all the street money. We do have some sidewalk money, shoreline accesses, beach nourishment. That's setting us up for the next project in the next 5-year cycle. So every
Builds
year,
up.
there's a plan for that. Every year that MSD and the town tax, we're putting aside a portion of that money in that reserve fund.
So we're ready 5 years from now.
It would be ready. And I'll show you that's how this is the considerations for this upcoming budget. These are traditional numbers. They could be changed. They might go up or down, probably. Streets is going to have specific numbers, I'm sure, by the time we get to the budget. Everyone has a budget in their lap right now that they're working on.
Mhm.
So this is the capital reserve funding. The sidewalk monies, at this stage, we do have a project in mind there, that will need a contract, which is the phase 5, the 158 Wright Brothers sidewalk from Collington Road to Landing Drive. The cost of that project's the $425,000, $177,000 promised as a grant from the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau. $25,000 is from another grant from the Outer Banks Forever grant, leaving about $220, well, a little bit more. $223,000 from the sidewalk capital reserve fund, which is what we will have if we fund it with 100,000. We'll from what we have now, 100 with this, we'll have the
Enough to
220.
do it.
Wow.
It's great.
It's fun, isn't it wonderful how that works out?
That's good.
That's cool.
That's good.
Yep. So that's kind of where we are on the sidewalk. Shoreline accesses and recreation. Those are just some historical numbers that we have set aside. Just not randomly, but pick those numbers because they have been targeted at that level in the past. The beach nourishment, there is a plan. So the 957,438 is part of the plan. And I do believe that's all I have for budget guidance. Again, everyone has a budget in there that they're working on. We're updating the vehicle replacement schedules, operations, how we're doing things, etc. Any new requests, whatever.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. It's a great
job.
overview. It's good to look at the top down, the big picture. And there's so many interesting anomalies over the last 3 years, and this year is not disappointing with other interesting twists and turns with that American Rescue money, FEMA money coming in and out. So did we have more to talk about, or are we just going to kind of go to a discussion? What did you have in
I
mind?
was thinking maybe just some general discussion from the board, if there's anything in particular you'd like to mention to us, or,
I have a question about the fire station.
okay?
What is the total cost, county and towns part going to be for it? Like if we're putting in 12 million, what's the total project cost going to be, and how much is the county
Okay.
investing in it?
It's estimated around 25 million is what the estimation is currently. Their portion is about 51%. Ours is around 49%.
I saw the estimate for the lease payments. Who determined how much the lease is going to be? Like how do those?
Is that at least just like half the mortgage, or 49% of the mortgage payment kind of thing?
Correct. It's Dare County, and they have a model that they work with a financial analyst on, and they'll go to the LGC with that. They've already had one meeting with the LGC, local government commission, who has to approve the financing of the whole project. And And so they have a model that they're using for that, and that's where the lease payments come from. Because they'll have to borrow the money.
No, we're calling it a lease, but we're kind of a co-borrower.
Yeah, we're
Correct.
co-mortgage, I guess.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In government, it's not so much about who owns it, it's just who gets to use it.
It's a unique arrangement, and there'll be a contract that stipulates
All that stuff.
that
Yeah.
we're working with. I know Casey and the county are working on that, our town's attorney, the county's attorney working on that right now.
So the terms of the negotiation, is it, so it's, not the terms, but it's a negotiated agreement, or is it like, and who responsible for that?
At the end of the day, it's the county as far as, the responsibility.
Who negotiates for us?
Well, we are, as far as negotiation, we would sign a lease agreement with them and a contract.
I guess what I'm asking, is there any back and forth, or is it like, is it just kind of like, I'm trying to understand the process, because I don't know if you guys know. But
Let me say this, is it fair to say that the financial arrangement that has to be approved by the
LGC.
LGC is going to give terms that are acceptable for this kind of a financial deal, and we're going to have the same deal as the county?
Right.
Oh, it will be the same.
It'll be the same. It's not like we're basically partners with them. They're negotiating. I would say negotiating is not the right word. They're going to arrange the allowable kind of financing, given the county's great financial position that gives them the ability to borrow at whatever a great rate. And that's why it's arranged this way, because they have a better ability to borrow at a lower rate, and we're piggybacking on the back of that. Is
And
that a
they
fair
own
way
the-
to say
Yes,
that?
sir, and they own the
And
property.
They own the property. Yep. So
Right.
they have to do it because of that.
Right.
So
is there any, like, I just don't understand this process. Is there any back and forth between?
sir.
There's no back and forth. Basically, what they say is what I mean, as far as usage and everything's
Well, no,
concerned.
that's all been discussed in developing the plan.
The town
before
attorney.
all
For
this.
the
Yeah.
for the footprint
Mhm,
of the building,
mhm.
based on our needs, is what the fire department side would have, and then based on the county's needs would be what the EMS side would have.
Okay. So
You
you
two
and the
do.
town attorney negotiate that with the county, or
I don't know
I
that.
mean, this is what the discussion of usage. You know, if we're
discuss-
sharing
yeah,
something,
yeah,
I'd
well-
be curious
Well,
what the negotiation.
that was done with the fire department personnel, and the other parts of our group that meet for technical reviews for planning buildings and so forth.
There's a needs assessment and then a sort of a scope. How big do you want to go? And
How
everybody had
big
to,
can you go?
how
Because
big
it's a-
can you go?
It's a given,
It's
it's
kind
a
of-
given
it's-
piece of property.
we were sort of maximizing the developable footprint on the land with parking and all that other stuff.
You seem like you got your
And
hand
the
on it.
building usage, I think the 4951 came from that we're going
We're
to
using
utilize
49% of the square
of
footage.
this building.
Okay.
Therefore, we're taking on 49% of the cost. It's not
That's how it
negotiated.
went.
That's what we're doing because that's how much we're using. It's not,
So
it's
it's
not
based
like
on
a
usage.
private practice where you go, well, you
No,
know.
I mean that makes sense to me. That is based on usage. That I can understand. I don't really understand the whole process. I'm not gonna sit here and just act like I do,
Mhm.
you know. But the mayor must understand it better than me. But I just want to make sure that it's, as a gatekeeper to that, I just want to make sure it's fair to the town. So.
I have a question, maybe for Chief Tilley. Could you share a brief synopsis of what the input to how did the county work with the fire department to design the building to make sure for $17 million we get what we need out of it for the future of the town? Like, what was it?
They inquired to us, what would our needs be? What would
Yeah.
it look like? We try to foresee in the future what staffing would look like down the road. What do you need now? Do you need a training area? You need a workout facility? You need bunk rooms? You need a kitchen? And we sat down with the architects along with Dare County EMS, and we allowed the architect who had experience designing these type of structures to come up with a plan, and then we would adjust and modify to best fit the needs of our organization.
And Chief, you're satisfied with this arrangement? You're satisfied that you're getting what you need for this arrangement?
Yes, sir. I think we are getting what we need
Okay.
based upon the footprint that we have. I mean, there's always things that you could wish for,
Sure.
but the fiscally conservative person that I am,
Right.
I just can't put in a space station or anything like that. I got to have actual needs of what it's going to take for us to effectively serve our community.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing. We just want to make sure that
And it satisfies that.
it satisfies that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, one of the
Good enough.
That
main
satisfies
components.
me.
That's good
I'm
enough
not
for
on the
me.
inside.
Yeah.
It's also, you know, we got to look at our major threat, and that is a significant hurricane that's going to come by and impact us. That's going to be the hub for us to prepare, respond, and recover. That's going to be the hub where we all come together and plan that response and recovery aspect.
And as all government buildings, and I know these kind of architectural firms that do this sort of work, they do a premium build that has a lower maintenance cost. So it's got really great finishes on it, but you don't have to paint it as often and all those kinds of things. And very efficient when it comes to the heating and air and all that sort of thing, which will be long-term advantages over our older buildings that we are currently using. Right. So all that sort of things were built in. Yeah, it's a both exciting and scary because it is a big chunk of money, but you know, hopefully you only have to do this once every 25, 30, 50 years, depends how long we've got these lifespans on these buildings. They're all getting more and more sturdy over time that you hope you get a lot of life out of them.
I think we got our dollar's worth out of that one.
Yeah. We run it out, put it away wet. That's right.
When are they opening the beds? Their cell fields are supposed to be in about
This month. Yeah. So it's moving.
Sorry, what did you say,
30
breaking ground?
First set of bids. So
Sub
Oh,
bids.
sub
Yeah,
bids.
sub
I
bids.
got you. Yeah. All right. Good deal. Any other questions about that facility?
Exciting stuff.
Thank you so much for the update. Appreciate it. So yeah, big picture. We've had a number of times we've gotten together over the last few years and articulated our vision for the future for the town and our commitment to parks and improvements that help the citizens out. You know, we were really excited about the sidewalk coming to fruition. We've talked about for some time, phase 5, and all the other phases down the road that we're excited about later on. But yeah, it's an unusual year because if you know, for 1 year, we're shifting a bunch of money into here. So there's this $2 million extra that could pad our safety net for the future or be tapped for some sort of one-time project or used another way I haven't thought of yet. Is that a fair way to look at that moment?
It is, and if the board will recall, when we first started talking about these funds, we discussed that we really wanted to use them for infrastructure improvements,
Right.
and not for
And nothing that would come up and up. Yeah.
regular ongoing cost. And I think we all recognized, just like everything else, our street improvement cost have gone up significantly, and we don't really see that dropping back to anything that we saw pre-pandemic. And so our thoughts are that 2 million plus could be used to help us get through some of these next few years of street improvement projects that are going to be pretty major. We're working on some more grant money for the Wrightsville project. That one's going to be huge, and it would really be good to get as much of that done in one bid as we possibly can. So that was kind of the way we were looking at that money, those monies being expended.
Makes sense. Yeah. There's some efficiencies and scale when it comes to
Right,
projects
where
of
we
that
don't, you know,
size.
we saw the last few years where we actually had to go in and break projects
Things
in
down.
half because the numbers were just so high. But we don't really recommend to the board that we wait, that we not do it, because like I say, we don't see,
Never catch up. Yeah.
you never catch up, and we don't really see the numbers back before, you know, like they were before the pandemic. We were getting some really good numbers for street work. And we only have a handful of contractors, so that's a disadvantage for us as well. And there's a lot of work going on, so they're all very busy.
Right.
Even, you look and see what's going on here, but if you go across the state, those same contractors are working all over the state as well.
Because everyone's gotten a little bit of this
Yes, sir.
American Rescue
Right.
money has been spread
Right.
around. It's been good for anybody that builds things.
Yes.
So,
So if there's no objections, that's how we'll look at budgeting those funds. Because what you'll be getting in May is a budget for the upcoming fiscal year and a plan year budget. So it'll be the two-year budget.
the two-year
Obviously,
budget.
you only adopt and set the tax rate for the 1 year, but just kind of looking out in the second year. And one of the other things, just for you to have some thought to, the building that we're seeing isn't just the Target and the Wawa. We're also seeing a lot of new homes. Got an entire subdivision that's really growing, as Meredith can testify to back in her neighborhood. And then the houses up on the north end, got some cluster homes and cottages and so forth. So we're going to have to look, and I would say within the next 2 years, at some increase in personnel, some possibly increase in solid waste routes, police, possibly fire. Just going to have to add to our workforce. Hopefully, being able to add to our workforce has really been a struggle, filling some positions, just like everybody else is dealing with. But the board's been very, very generous to the town with the COLAs and keeping us competitive with our neighbors, and that's very helpful.
Good points. So we look at these moments like, is there, there's a little more wiggle room to be more creative. We've talked generally about that hiring problem, and we've talked generally about the opportunities in housing. We were a bunch of people at the table I was sitting at last night were talking about how everybody goes back to like hiring is a big problem for the economy. We don't have enough people to work all these restaurants and all that sort of thing. And when you go around the room and you talk to business owners around the Outer Banks, a lot of them have for the last 10 or 15 years been investing in real estate so they could guarantee housing for their own employees. And I didn't know if that might not be a bad strategy for us. We have a lot of physical infrastructure for our services, but is it possible to get into that, or is that considered something that you're not allowed to be competitive in as a government? Can you do housing for employees? Is that done?
I know there was some discussion about housing for lifeguards and different ways of doing that. I think we went to a meeting in Nags Head where they had, they talked about that. It was more like a dormitory
Right.
style.
Yeah, she's talking about there was a group from, and I think I've mentioned this to you guys in the past, from Wisconsin Dells that had been really creative about solving their J1 and their their summer hire issues by kind of creating special zoning for buildings that would be deed restricted to only be for, in their case, J1 students or seasonal employees or whatever. And those properties didn't need to have all the parking requirements as other places because the employees either had transportation provided or they, in their case, they had a whole town that was really accessible by bicycle. So the J1 students all were provided bicycles. And I think in one building, they had 1,400 beds and 10 parking spaces. So it's kind of an extreme example, but the idea is good in that these are more efficient ways to deal with summer housing, and it frees up year-round housing, which helps the knock-on problems of year-round help for businesses and that sort of thing. So, given that that seems to be the number one problem identified at the county level, and you hear it in every conversation, I was trying to think, what are the other things that we could be moving in that direction, and does this financial moment help us in any way to go in that direction?
Well, I think one of the things that this board continues to do is make changes to your zoning ordinance.
To incentivize things,
Yes, and I know the planning department is working on
a bunch of new
some
stuff.
of those
Excited
ideas to
about
go to. I think what Meredith and I were talking about would be our goal is to actually sit down with the Board of Commissioners and the Planning Board together and discuss these and make sure that we're on the right track, and then have them review it, and then come to you. So I think you're looking at that for March.
We're looking in March.
Yeah.
Super. Yeah, looking forward to that discussion.
It'll be kind of a twofold because we're also updating the zoning ordinance that
Yeah.
y'all heard about last time. So we'll give you where we are with that and how we're trying to, then we'll have the possible amendment, drafted out, make sure everybody, that's what we thought we heard.
Yeah.
And
We got you, man.
if indeed it is, you can do them one at a time, or you can prioritize them. See
Phase them,
how they go systematically. And then that's how they would be presented to the planning board, but it would be a joint work session so that everybody's voice was heard on the matter. No
Yep.
surprises.
What's the last part?
No surprises.
No surprises. Yes, yes. Gotcha. So I just sort of layering on top of that great work that you're already doing into the sort of the CIP side of it is that, are there investment opportunities when it comes to housing for our own employees? Because like these other businesses I was mentioning, while it's a tough nut to crack on the way in, it does kind of lock in your price in a certain way because you own it rather than having to rent it or, basically pay it in a salary to somebody's going to pay it in rent. You sort of, you're incentivized to control those costs. So anyway, just want to have that out for as long as we're talking about budget in sort of big picture ways, throw that out there. The other couple things I'll throw in, and then I really want to get it out to you guys to weigh in is, thematically, you guys know me well by now that we're big on parks, we're big on pedestrian access. There's lots of opportunities there, but also beautification. I think that, beautifying the town, our demographics are shifting with the prices going up. Some of the people that used to come here can't afford to come here anymore. And some new, very rich, getting less rich people are coming in on the top end and expecting nicer things because they're paying a lot more. The average amount people are paying to stay on vacation has gone up significantly in the last 2 years. And that clientele is expecting it to be a little bit nicer. So it goes back to my theme about, cutting the grass and edging, but also how can we kind of upgrade our beach accesses so that we give our businesses and all of the folks in our town that work here a little bit of a better economic scenario, because a beautiful town sort of raises all boats when it comes to, folks coming to shop or eat or do business in the town. The overall look and feel when you come through is a pretty small lift that has, I think, a big benefit. So given we've got a moment where we could do some things, maybe beach accesses could get a little facelift. I see that as a good long-term investment. And then sort of the ongoing thing, we'll go back to like maintenance along the bypass and things like that help keep us look in ship shape. What else is on y'all's mind? Those are my things I hammer every year. So
One thing that I have on my mind is I'd really like to see us accomplish something back near the disc golf course. I'd like to see that road paved and some water and a
Great
restroom
opportunity.
facility.
Bathroom.
Certainly
We've
there's a lot
got a
of
ton
demand.
of residents that are going to that facility. And we need, as a town, we need to be able to provide them with infrastructure that'll help them out.
yeah, I definitely like to see parking and restrooms. Be on
Yeah, you
the
need the
long-term
road needs to be paved and water needs to be there, and whether it's in a
list.
segmented plan or however it's done, but we need to work on that.
So those are great long-term goals right there, and this is the
Satisfy
way to
some
get stuff
street
started.
and recreation, and
Kind of all at the same time.
it's kind of got stuff wrapped together there.
That would enhance Camp Salt a lot too.
Yeah,
Those poor kids have to
help the kids out.
hike
Sure.
down to the football field to have a real restroom.
Oh,
Or use a
right.
porta john when it's middle of the day in July. So
Yeah, I just think it's a real worthwhile project, and we need to get on it as soon as we can, especially allocate some funds towards it.
Good stuff.
And then the other thing that I had was I'd like to see an increase in the amount of money we put into recreation. I think it was at 75,000. Is that right?
We
When-
haven't gotten that far in
Okay.
actually doing the budget, but please
Forecast.
say what you want. I mean,
Yeah, I think we need to increase that. I think it needs to be more because we still have parks that need to be updated. One of the main things that I think we need to understand at the same time, or at least that I think about, and I could be wrong, but tell me if I am. I've been wrong before. Well, I remember one time, but I think that we need to understand we're going to have to do more maintenance.
Yep.
On that, and I know that the guys we have in the rec park do a wonderful job, and they're out there all the time, but please look and see if we need to add somebody to help them out. We're really blessed with a excellent town and workforce because just like with some of our things that people come up with that they'd like to see and like to have done, one of the things that I hear a lot is the twice a week pickup on the garbage, but people don't understand when we only do the once a week pickup, those people are doing other projects in the town and they're causing us not to have to hire additional people. So, it's a well-managed town, Debbie, and you do a great job with that. But sometimes we need to add people, and I think we probably need to add some people, in the building and grounds department.
I'm a ditto on that double.
And then another thing you briefly touched on it when you said police department. I think I pointed out a couple of months ago, they're doing more calls, more work in the police department with the same amount of people. The workload keeps increasing. So we need to look very, very closely at, do we need to add people there? That's just a couple of things I have.
Right. I'm
Enough
glad
of-
to hear
enough
that.
of the
I know
start.
that Debbie has got this beautiful long view too in her whole team of seeing that like over a lot of years, incrementally, we're getting more residents, but also more heads in beds over there.
Yeah.
And it's so incremental, you don't notice it, but at a certain point like you said, it's more work. So
That's
I'm
right.
with you on that. And
And it's probably true in every department.
I was going to
You
say fire lifeguards.
Yeah,
they're
it's probably
all
true in
the
every
same.
department, but I happened to notice that when I was looking at some of the stats on the monthly report in the police department, they were answering almost, I can't remember what the number is now, but it was a sizable difference of an increase that they were doing with the same amount of people.
It was roughly 15%
Yeah.
year to date. Because that was the one thing on the November monthly report that jumped out to me was just the calls year over year
Right.
increase for police, and it's a big jump. It really
we're
is.
calling their mayor a lot more too. I'm not so happy about that either.
Maybe we just get them to defer the calls to the mayor. Right?
That's right, yeah. Everybody's calling more about lots of stuff. Coming out of post-COVID, got some opinions about some things.
That's it. That's all I have right now.
Those are good opinions. I like those. Like you said, of buildings, grounds, I think there's lots of work always to do.
And I do support what you're talking about, the appearance of the town, but we've talked about that over and over, and we need to do better. I know that Steve had some real good results with Alan Moran and
You were telling me
DOT,
about that.
which, by the way, DOT has been doing an excellent job. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that a little bit or not, but they've been doing a real good job on the bypass, cleaning it up and the paving.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
pretty
It's a
work.
little bit warmer here. We'll see a lot more of them.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
All right, I promise I'll back away from the mic now.
No, all good. We've got plenty of time. It's one of the most important things we do is steer this.
I was going to ask with the paving of the bypass. I saw you see where the dirt's piled up on the side. Are they're gonna pick that up, correct? I mean, do you know? I mean,
Yeah,
they,
they
It'll
do.
all be cleaned.
They
come
do
back
pick
in
it
they
up.
have,
cleaned it,
okay,
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
still
they
out
are
there.
picking
Even
it up,
Kitty,
yeah.
well, Kitty Hawk and everything.
I saw them the other day.
They were
picking
starting to pick it
up.
all
Yeah.
up. Okay.
Yeah, they're trying to.
I mean,
I
I
was like, man, that was. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're like,
Yeah, they got cool
Yeah.
machines.
They
They
Yeah,
do.
for a
It's
while.
a. It is like a side.
okay.
They've been doing it down in Salvo too. A
Mhm.
lot more dirt down there.
The majority of our town is curb and gutters, so they won't be clipping the shoulders as much from Third Street to Collington. That zone doesn't have curb and gutters, so they will clip the shoulders there.
Right. Okay.
What they said in the Kitty Hawk bit, they clipped the shoulders. There's a substantial amount of dirt. It was not in the Barn Hill contract, so DOT forces are having to pick that up.
I see.
Mm.
Okay. I was wondering why I was
Interesting.
sitting. I saw it. I was like, oh.
And we have had a rolling lane closure in KDH. There's a crew from Windfall with a little machine called a Ventrac. It's like a little tractor with a cutting disc that they're putting behind the curb.
Oh.
And they're edging that so that the grass hanging over, and then guys with scoop shovels cleaning it
Okay.
out. So they're getting that prepped for the season, so to speak. And we're supposed to be getting a sweeping pass to get all the
Extra.
debris out.
They're gonna want it nice and clean when they go by and grind it and pave it. So yeah, by the end of summer, we're gonna look as good as we've looked in 10 years. It's gonna be really great. But yeah, I'd like to see them do that prep work on that should buy us a lot of time.
I don't really have anything to add to yours and your ideas that I've heard so far. I really agree with your beautification and how it just has a way of making everything better, of course, and making the town something to really be proud of. We want our town as busy as it is to be looking good. And of course, I'm always a proponent of the parks. I'm a little disappointed still with the process and the length of time it's taken to get the park ready. I still don't think we have, other than obviously the disc golf, which has taken off, over the years. We don't have this. Hopefully Meekins will become that, spot, but it's just taken a while. With all the residents we have here, I'm into that idea. Obviously, we have something that's working, disc golf, and yeah, we should put money into that because we know it's already working and it's already, there should be a spot should be facilities for bathroom, water, parking, like you said. So we already know that's successful. So I agree putting money in that and is important. I really concur with all of your points. Sidewalk. All of that. I mean, it's exciting that there's going to be a sidewalk, in front of the Wright Memorial. I think that's great. So that's going to add to everything. So everybody's on the right track. I don't have any wishes other than personally, and from what I've talked to people in the town, other than I still feel disappointment in our parks a little bit. I think that's going to change when Meekins gets done a little bit. It'll change a little bit. I still like to see more money in that.
Yeah, Mr. Gray was saying, just if there was a little bit bigger pot, we could do a little bit more each year. It's not like a big jump, but
It's playing fields. It has a lot to do with that. I think playing fields and Dare County and what they're doing and they're outgrowing the rec center. I mean, it's just, I feel like everything's growing. We're getting more people, and it's like the kids. I think about the kids. Still, my kids are almost good. Shoot, by the time it's done, they'll be out. But it's the future.
Looks like there's
kids,
some potential resolution for at least some of that
Yeah.
coming pretty quickly.
No, I mean,
with the
you're
lights
saying
and
the
the
money,
fields.
this extra money, though.
But
Ideally,
I just meant fields.
Oh,
I just
fields,
meant
yeah.
field
they're
space.
working on fields. right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Debbie's saying the extra money we need to basically, I'm the chairman of the streets committee. We need, if we wish to continue on that path that we've set forth, the plan that we have set for year to year. You're saying because of the increase in costs, a lot of that money we're really going to need to put you would like
To
us
stay on
to
track.
put towards it, just to stay on that path. That's
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, what we do with streets is important, and
But we're continuing to search for grants
for
to
grants, and in
help,
addition
help
to
with
it.
that as well, and
Right.
as we would with anything back on the bomb track.
But those increase in costs, make us have to have to allocate money to that. So, yeah. Uh,
You can always raise the tax.
I agree with you guys, though. I really like your plans, like your ideas. I don't know how you divide it all. But I'm not going to add to it.
There you go. Yeah. We're just trying to give broad guidance because
Yeah.
lots of smart people working on the budget. We're here from the citizens and
Yeah.
kind of get a feel for what everybody is feeling. And I think we've been accomplishing that. Like I've mentioned this before, a sort of sense of pride was always kind of my goal of like, how do we make people really feel proud of being Kettleville Hills? And we continue to do little things that incrementally ratchet that up from all of the stuff we do as a community.
Oh, there's no doubt.
All the little things, everything from ice cream social to all of the vendor events and music. These are things that make the quality of life go up in ways that we always have the beach and we have our sports and things like that, but these little things really.
No,
make a
I
lot of
think the
difference.
board and obviously the staff, everybody needs to be proud of what we've done over the last few years because we have done that. Yeah, we have focused and we have all agreed on that. So we're all on the same page, like in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Incrementally, a little
Yeah.
bit better, a little bit better. Anything? Oh, when I look at you, I think of the other things I forgot to say. But I don't want to
So
take
glad,
yours.
So inspiring.
You're inspiring that way. Like,
Um,
I think.
do you want to
Go.
go?
No, you go ahead. Then
Okay.
if you don't get it.
So
I'll figure
mine
it out.
are, well,
Go ahead.
because you guys have already touched on like the broad brush stuff, I have a few specific things and they may already be in departments' budgets. I just thought I would mention that I would be supportive of an increased budget for these specific things. But the speed monitoring, the solar speed monitoring, I would like to see us add. I would like to see that be part of the budget for next year and start with maybe 2 or 4. The town of Southern Shores, Chief and I talked, has 11 of the solar ones. So I think it's just something that we
Like
should
to help this
probably start to
department
go
with, yeah.
ahead. Right. And lifeguards. I've talked to Dave about this a couple of times, but I just really love the camp program that you guys do in the summer. So I would love to see that grow. And I really think that it could I see it feeding the lifeguard program in terms of lifeguards later. So that's something that I would love to support and see
allocate
more
a
money
little
go
more
into.
locals to just
local
Right.
kids becoming
Local
lifeguards.
kids. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
so I know they've presented on it before, but it's been years since probably pre-COVID. But so it's a summer camp that the kids start when they're 7, 8, and mine too. Yeah, both my kids did it for 5 or 6 years. And so I would just I would like to see us grow that program and potentially put more money in that program. And then also Meredith, I'm curious as the markets grow, maybe maybe not for this year, but maybe for 24, 25, just maybe in the future, it might be, do we need a contract with someone to manage markets, or do we need to get you help in some way? I just, as those types of programs grow, just a thought.
Yeah, when you come
Sorry.
to community building to leverage on those things that
Right.
there's obviously big
Right.
places to see big shows
Mhm.
music wise,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
folks that are just in Kettleville Hills want to go something that's close and free or cheap or
Right.
free.
Well, and
Um,
even Nags had just contracted with someone for the
Yeah.
whole year.
They-
I think
they
they're part-time,
previously
right? But-
Contracted, they ended up hiring her.
Right.
full-time
Oh, okay. That's right.
because she
Right.
was-
Right.
She was a contracted service for the Dowdy's Market.
And it was like a
period.
half-time job
Right.
and now it's
And
full-time.
now she's full-time and she coordinates all activities at Dowdy's Market.
Right.
So all the music or yoga or she's
Mhm.
the Dowdy's Market, she's Dowdy's coordinator. They have that many activities there now that she has a full-time job. But
And
she
we may
started-
not get to, I know that
She-
they have a bigger space and we may not
well,
get there,
they
but
also, yeah,
I just want, I just worry about
they
you
contracted
being
her from the
overworked.
Beginning to run and coordinate the market.
Yeah.
They do that.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with you. If it keeps getting bigger, you're gonna.
You hear that?
Yeah,
advocacy.
well, I mean, you can see when you're out there, it takes a little bit of, which is great that you have that, but I can
We
foresee
started
it getting to a
35
point
to
where,
40, in these winter markets, we had 70 to 72.
right.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of communication and a lot of logistics. So I just thought I would throw it out.
I think a lot of the big pieces have been covered already. A couple ideas I had: buildings and grounds, and how it really affects the town's appearance and visitor and resident experiences. How do we have adequate staff to respond to signs getting weathered quickly? I mean, they really go quick on the beach accesses and around there, but we also, and I see this at Walgreens, and it's kind of corresponded with the surge of visitors in the last few years, is vandalism, spray painting. Knuckleheads tearing stuff up, and there's a lot of guilty parties there. But are we able to respond really quick to things, especially in ultra visible areas? Not just our parks, but you see a lot of stop signs at beach accesses now getting tagged up. Seen it at work.
It's that broken windows thing. Once you see one, other people copycat. It's how
It
quickly
is,
you can
and,
get remedied is
yeah.
really important.
Maybe not just investing a little more than manpower to address that, but maybe training our lifeguards when they see those things on their routes, calling it in for a quicker response as we possibly can do. The same thing with a weathered sign or anything else that may, not be up to our standards. We go back to the slide. About the fund balance and having that bottom and having the four we got enough money in the bank to run the town for 4 months. We brought that up last week. When that presentation was going on, and that's a lot of money we had. I was like spending money in my head and thinking all these amazing things we can do, and fund balance is so healthy. We're going to really have do a lot with it. And then 4 months of expenditures was shared, and I sobered up pretty quick when we got to that. So just a thought I've had, and I'm kind of agree with it now. I don't think we need to make a policy change beyond 35%, but maybe an agreement at a 50% or close to what fund balance to be maintained. Just to 50. I think that gives us a lot of conservative position going forward. If something does go wrong, if that catastrophic storm hits us, we'll have a healthy balance in the bank to address it. And it's just, responsible.
There's something to be said for when there's flush times that you should put away something
Yeah,
for a rainy day.
just be,
Because even if it's not a storm, there could be some bigger economic downturn 5 years from now that we can't possibly foresee, another pandemic, all sorts of things.
and so I am in support of, we don't need to make a policy, but just guidance to stay
We're
above
not trying to spend
50.
it all down this year.
Exactly, 50% as like a watermark,
More of a
to a target to keep. It's disappointing that the way taxes are distributed to the town is based on ad valorem rates. It almost creates a real bad behavior of an arms race. Like the more you tax, the more you get. You double dip. So that being said, I think we've done well. We need to kind of maintain a tax rate as where it's at. I would be very hesitant to raise taxes in this planning period for 2 years. We discussed the paving that road behind the football field a lot over the last few years. That will be well utilized by a lot of people. So I think that is a pretty good item to add to the agenda, at least discussion. But everything else I'm in support of. I really like the idea of any excess above 50 to kind of catch us up with capital expense.
I
It's a good
think that's a
investment.
good idea. I agree with that.
That 4 months,
It's
Party
Party
pooper.
Yeah.
Put that credit card right back in my pocket.
can't
I saw
tell you.
that. I was,
Yeah, we have if you look back over the last many years, we don't really go below 50%.
no, we haven't.
So
we already kind of live by
We,
that.
we kind
mantra.
of sort of live by that in
Oh,
a,
really?
in a way. It's just that that policy, as far as, reporting, et cetera, means something to us.
Yeah.
And so we take it seriously to make sure we have it.
Even on
I think it's a good point. I think we ought to shoot for that 50%.
the things that popped into my mind as we went around were the things that I thought of earlier and forgot. One was because of the markets, I know a few of the folks on the roller derby, and I know a few of the folks that do skating out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And they've been telling me that the surface is in rough shape and gotten rougher quicker due to other uses than skating on that. So I didn't know whether I think they're really eager to see it get into the CIP list as a maintenance thing, and that's a pricey thing. I don't know what it is. It's in the 5 figures.
How does that work?
The surfacing,
Yeah, is that like a periodic?
it's periodic, just like you would with a tennis court. I guess there's some sort of maintenance
So there-
schedule.
They're saying that no more markets that we've had in that area has already caused issues.
Damage to the surface is what they're
Yes, we
saying. There's
paved
like
that, didn't we?
divots and holes and things.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's what they're telling me. It may not be true.
I was just thinking, well, I don't know, but how often does it get resurfaced?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's around 15 years, is the 10 to 15,
10 to
especially
15.
the lifespan span. And it was just done right after Hurricane Matthew because the rink
It
was
was
completely
damaged.
destroyed during
Right,
Hurricane
right.
Matthew.
Yeah.
So
That surface is in very good shape.
Okay. All right. Well, I told him I would say something, so there I am. That's
we
my
don't,
constituent.
there's not any heavy equipment on it. It's just
Right.
people's.
And we
Tents
don't
and stuff.
allow any tacking or anything to it's literally the pop-up sitting on top of it, which is lighter than a human walking on it. So our market probably is not.
It was not to disparage the market. It was just them saying that they
There
like a
is wear
smooth
and tear
surface.
on hockey rinks for the people that play hockey because
Yeah.
obviously there are sticks hitting it.
All that stuff.
Not every single
Well-
hockey stroke is of genius and only hits the puck.
I'm wondering if their
where the
activity
goals,
increases any.
where the hockey goals actually go always gets worn because those are metally braced down, but they are designed to break away so that obviously someone doesn't go full speed into it and hurt themselves.
So,
And that does cause some wear and tear right at the goal. But if you walk where the roller hockey area has been mapped,
it's in good shape. All right. Good to know. Good to know.
Wondering if the
What year was
activities
Matthew? I can't
increased
remember.
any.
That was 10 years ago.
16,
2016.
No. 12.
They run together.
Way back.
It was before 14.
16,
I think
thought it was
16.
Oh,
Yeah.
16. It was right around the time
It
the
was-
pit closed. So I was like, I should know that off the top of my
It
head.
was, right after.
Yeah, we
Florence.
didn't recover very well from that one.
Yeah, right after.
It was
I wonder if they've been playing more. I mean, if the activity's increased any and it's caused it to
that's
need
possible.
to be coated more often, I don't know.
I have
Anyway, I said I would bring it up.
a question about that too. Like a year or two ago, we had budgeted to put a cover and lighting over it. How much would not have?
That's this year.
It was this.
It is 2016. Had to go.
Oh, it was the year
Had to go.
2016. Yes.
How much of an effect would just having it out of the sun and the rain do in extending the life?
In the light.
Yeah, just it didn't work out. We were able to do it.
And
But,
Charlie might be able to talk to it a little bit better, but they bid the covering of the rink and it was
Astronomical.
very,
Way
very
more,
cost
yeah.
prohibitive.
yeah.
And we also just invested in lights there, and then
And,
that would
and we're
negate that
actually
expense.
doing some work on the lights now to help not only the rink, but future activities out on the park. A couple of they're switching some to LEDs. A few of them are going to get turned so that it provides
Lights more
better
up.
light in the general vicinity of the rink, so that when we do have ice cream socials and those activities, they're
It's better.
and
light.
it's not Christmas time because obviously the Buildings and Grounds does an amazing job making it look like daylight out there at Christmas time. But it will provide light so that activities can happen in the evening without compromising any lighting to the actual rink for play. by moving to LED, it's a totally different spectrum, and they're able to do that with the existing poles and the existing cans we have right now. So that will be, I think that's next year.
That's in this year's budget.
Yeah, this year's budget is, we're still looking at replacing the light fixture, but the roof over that was almost double what we had estimated.
Wow.
Projected around $250,000.
Wow.
Pretty much the same thing we've been dealing with Beaconsfield.
It's just things are
Yeah,
outrageous.
Outrageous.
Yes.
Very frustrating.
So that broadly, that's another interesting thing. Like, well, you don't want to put anything off, but then again, maybe you do. Like my son recently, he's studying overseas. He said, we should sell my car now because it's worth a lot now. And it won't be worth that much later because prices for used cars are very high now and he'll need to buy a car a year from now. So I said, sure, sell your car, put it in the bank and buy another car a year from now. Maybe it's better to put off some projects if everything's escalated. Each dollar would buy more later. Maybe not. Maybe it's already come down
I
up to
think we really just have to weigh.
each time.
Each
You
time,
had pushed
what-
things off before because of that, which was really
Right,
great.
but if if you're looking at issues where I'll use the Wrightsville Avenue, for example, where we know we've got flooding issues, we know there's, it's terribly needed.
Mhm.
Maybe that's something you go ahead and do, and then you postpone the rooftop,
Yeah.
You just have to balance the need.
Yep. Got me thinking, well, I don't want to miss these other ones. We'll come to that as a second, but we have a really great system in place about streets. It's a system that's really worked really well. It's about looking long and inspecting everything on a regular schedule. I think we can use those kinds of methodologies for other things that are long-term projects. Maybe that would be like beach accesses. We say, well, we'll give them a grade and make a list of things that probably need to be updated this year or next year, the third year. I know the school board did that a lot, where they'd say, well, here's what we really need for the school this year, but these are the things we think we need on the third year out, the fifth year out. And it wouldn't just be for roads, but also for other infrastructure. And then sort of those wish lists too, like the gravel road out there isn't on the list because we don't generally upgrade, but the demand has changed and the needs have changed and people's wants and dreams have changed for that area. So maybe we don't really have a good system to fit that into our maintenance, rubric that we're using. And then the last couple of things I didn't want to miss were, I said I was inspired, I always think of you as my most green friend. And interestingly, you didn't bring them up, but I'm a big fan of government doing little things that are sort of proof of concept, inspirational to people to say, this is possible. And then I also think that there's a certain goodness, what's the word I'm looking for? It would be a good long-term plan to find ways to dip our toe into things that lower our carbon footprint, things that control our costs when it comes to petrol, looking into solar, electric vehicles, those kinds of things. Partially because they just make good economic sense, but partially because they're forward-thinking and inspire people to think about it for themselves. And also that sense of pride. They say, "Oh, yeah, my town is trying to do the right thing by the environment. We're a very environmentally conscious area. We're sensitive to our water quality and the natural beauty that we have here." And so the little things that we can do, whether it was have solar panels over a parking lot here in the town complex, or something that like electric chargers. There's programs to get those going. Sometimes they actually even make money, but it just makes you think. Oh yeah, I should do that.
Yeah.
LED lights on the beach accesses will send a good message too. We have some very vintage light fixtures out there. They're charming in their old 70s mercury halide kind of way, but when I go down to like Puerto Rico, which is struggling financially, and they've got beautiful amber LEDs at every beach access, I'm like, oh, we got to catch up to Puerto Rico.
Well, I think, Ben, last night it was pretty telling when the woman who was leading the meeting is from Calgary, and just having gotten back from there, it is a very super green. And so one of her very last questions was about environmental initiatives. And basically it was kind of embarrassing
quiet.
actually, because everyone in the room was like,
Huh?
Like- no, I mean, it was very clear. It was telling for a couple of things. Obviously, we are obviously in a sink or swim situation in terms of our tourism, because we're not even there. We're trying to meet the basics. We can't even get past the basics to get into the realm of that kind of thinking. So anyway, that
Yeah.
was a moment where I was like, oh gosh,
I've told the story
we
too
should
about
probably.
going to ski towns in the western part of Colorado, where the citizens, who are just like anybody in a tourism town, struggle to live there, love the lifestyle, but struggle to live there. They donate and donate and donate to buy ranch land just so that it will be preserved and not turned into condos. It's a big sense of pride. They have like these little flags, and each flag says you donate a certain amount of money, and it's very colorful. And they're like, wow, they really put their money where their mouth is when it comes to like preserving the environment there. All right, I'm running out of things. We share a lot of, like, as usual, we share a lot of the same priorities and themes, and our town manager and our staff always hears us and gets us going in that direction. So hopefully
got
we've
our
been helpful
homework.
for you in
Yes,
doing
sir.
that.
Yes, thank you.
I know I talked to Charlene over a couple of emails about, she was asking me like, what do you have in mind for improving beach accesses? And I realized I hadn't been very specific at all, because I really don't want to micromanage anything, just sort of in general. But it got me thinking, because I went online and I looked for, okay, well, what kind of options do you have for beach accesses? And well, you can spend a lot of money. Like those like showers that they have down at the Coquina, those things are like $3,000 or $4,000. Like, oh, I'm happy with our PVC pipe and the shower head for $10. It's cool with that.
Yeah.
It was square and it was sitting up straight. That'd be, that's all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like going 100x up or anything. But the sand blows around, but we can get out there with a shovel and find the edge of the pavement every year. Those are the kind of upgrades I'm talking about, not trying to spend millions of dollars. Everybody else is running out of ideas too? All right.
I think we'll have more time to talk about it.
Staff, anybody that's, we really want to open it up. We have time to do one more. We got to do consent agenda before we do public comment, but be thinking about that, because I'm coming back to you. If you inspired any ideas that you want to tell us, staff, your stuff matters too. Sue Kelly, citizen, yeah. Our one citizen. We're all citizens. So should we move on to consent agenda? Yeah.
Okay, 2 items on the consent agenda, the minutes from the January 18th, 2023 meeting, and the budget amendment and the transfer to appropriate funds for the rebidding of Seminole Indian and Apache 2324 Street project. And staff recommends approval of the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Thank you very
Motion
much.
carries. All right, public comment. Sue, I'm looking at you. No, you don't have to go up there. I'm just giving you a hard time. Oh, good.
Stu Kelly for the CAC. Steve reminded me that I forgot to mention the poster contest, which is a key part of Trash Attack. So we're going to do that again, and it's open to all public school students, First Flight schools, K through 12, and the deadline for turning in the posters is March 1st, 4 p.m. They want you to use the 22 by 28 sheets in a landscape shape. That's the preferred, and turn them into the admin office by 4 o'clock on March 1st. And the other thing I'll say with regard to your interesting discussion is that we have on our agenda tomorrow morning to look at what you have previously asked us to do, which is the real reason why the whole CAC was created in the first place. So I don't know what we're going to come up with. I certainly don't have a bunch of ideas to throw out, but we've got a great group of people, and I hope we will come up with some things that might be useful to give you to consider.
Super. more brains working on the project,
Yeah.
the better. We like it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call for other dedicated staffers here after hours. All good. All right. Well, I guess we'll close public comment. Any response to public comment? Then we're looking for that last motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? We are adjourned.
Thank you very much for the guidance.
Thank you. Thank you for the prep and thanks for the presentation.
So y'all know, the fire station, it has to come to this board for approval.